Okay, so today we're going to look at a question from the University of London International Programme, Chapter 4, Consumer Choice. And we're going to look at an extended response question. These questions require you to give an explanation via diagrammatic analysis and also a written explanation to support your diagrammatic analysis. So, let's begin. Susan buys bread rolls and cheese. One bread roll costs £1 and cheese costs £3 per 500-gram block. Susan has £12 income to spend on bread and cheese. Draw Susan's budget constraint and a possible indifference curve. Explain the assumptions behind the shape of the indifference curve you have drawn. Okay, so this is quite a straightforward question. So we'll draw a graph. And on that graph, we will draw a budget constraint. Which is always a straight line between the axes. But what's important is that we use this information in order to put some numbers on our budget constraint. So if her income is 12 and bread rolls cost £1, then that means the maximum amount of bread rolls she can buy is 12 bread rolls, because to get the maximum amount of bread rolls, so let's say we put bread here and we put cheese here. This point here represents the maximum amount of bread rolls that she can get. So this point here is always, if we say that this is good y and this is good x, just because that's on the y-axis, that's on the x-axis, this point here is always m over py. If you spend all your money on bread, how much bread can you get? Well, in this case, it would be 12 over 1, so it would be 12. This point here is always m over price of x being cheese here. So if cheese is £3 per 500-gram block, then how many can we buy? Well, we can buy 12 over 3, so it would be 4. And that is our constraint. Then we need to draw a possible indifference curve. Well, I'm going to draw my indifference curve like this. I'm going to make sure it touches about here on my budget constraint, and I'm going to make it quite a steep slope, something like that. U1. Okay, so then it says, explain the assumptions behind the shape of the indifference curve you have drawn. So essentially, our indifference curve is downward sloping, which implies that there's a degree of substitution between the products. Degree of substitution between products. What we mean by that is that we would be willing to give up some bread in order to get some cheese and maintain the same level of happiness. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I drew mine quite steep. So my indifference curves were steep, and that was done on purpose. That's because steep indifference curves imply a low degree of substitutability. They imply a low degree of substitutability. And that's because I think bread and cheese are quite complementary. You normally have cheese with bread. So I don't think they're that close as substitutes. They're more complements, which is why I drew my indifference curves quite steep. The next thing we need to write down as an assumption is that we have non-satiation. Which just means that more cheese or more bread will make us more happy? More cheese or bread will make us more happy. And this would be enough to get the marks for this question.